One mathematical formula, the fundamental theorem of calculus, is the basis for most of the complex financial calculations driving trillions of dollars in trades across the world economy. Math not only creates world economies, it can change the fundamental definition of money. Welcome to the world of Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin is a virtual currency based on an open-source cryptographic protocol and network, introduced in 2008, that is independent of any central authority. As of 2013, the Bitcoin-powered economy is in excess of $1.4 billion, with activity at a rate of $45 million a day. Nodes on the network are programmed to increase the Bitcoin supply according to a predetermined schedule in a process called mining. Bitcoin mining is undertaken by calculating an incredibly complex set of mathematical equations that, once solved, rewards the miner with Bitcoins.
So what's the present and future impact of virtual currency? That's exactly what two Senate committees are exploring today in a joint hearing. The virtual currency up for discussion is called Bitcoin, a financial concept new to even Senator Carper, a ranking member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, which held the first hearing on the virtual currency yesterday.
Virtual currencies, perhaps most notably Bitcoin, have captured the imagination of some, struck fear among others, and confused the heck out of the rest of us, including me. I'll be the first to admit that, like most Americans, I am no technical expert in virtual currencies. A week or two ago, I was trying to get my head around this subject, and where did Bitcoin come from? Who was the creator? Who are the creators? So you don't think it was Al Gore, do you? When I first started trying to understand what this was all about, I sort of felt like Mrs. Einstein and said, I understand the words, but not the sentences.
Bitcoins are essentially digital cash for the internet. It operates by person-to-person exchange without a bank or central monetary authority, such as the Federal Reserve, to regulate or issue it. Lawmakers are now bedeviled by this technology, whose growing popularity has raised questions about whether or how it should be regulated.
The world makes 500 billion electronic payments every year that take 36 trillion hours to process and cost people tens of billions in fees. Money uses old, inefficient technologies that are slow and expensive and run on disconnected networks. The internet has made the world a flatter, more connected place, but payments have not kept up. It's time for money to evolve. Payments are as easy as email. You can send currency of any kind to anyone in the world in seconds for next to nothing. It creates new businesses, helps existing businesses grow, supports powerful applications, gives people control of their money, and makes the global economy accessible to billions of people without access to banks and financial institutions. The future of money is going to be a smarter, faster, more efficient and prosperous place for everyone.
You've got some real concerns about Bitcoin, Matt, and you say that this is something that Washington needs to get up to speed on really quickly.
Well, I don't have concerns because I think that Bitcoin to me is a canary in the coal mine of what we're going to face over the next 10 years or 20 years, which is cyber currency. And whether or not Bitcoin lasts, there's lots of questions about whether or not, because of their algorithms and whether or not they can last over the course of the long haul. Cyber currency is here to stay, and somebody is going to be the next Bitcoin, the next Bitcoin, the next Bitcoin, and our monetary policy is going to be in shambles if that happens.
What does the Bitcoin lobby wind up looking like? And what I mean by that is, what does the virtual currency lobby look like a couple of years down the road if we do get all these players?
Well, obviously the thing they're going to have to answer is they've operated mostly in the dark, and they've been successful mostly in the dark. Will they stay in the dark and sort of all these creations, and then they come and go, and what people do, and how they trade and buy and sell this online? Or will they come out in the open? At some point, I think the critical mass is going to reach a point on cyber currency that they're going to come out in the open, and then the politicians, there's no going back at that point. The horse is out of the barn. There's no going back.
Well, China moved very quickly to ban it from financial transactions.
But we're not China.
We're not China, but mainly as a concern that it's become a means of transferring funds. Would the U.S. move in that direction at one point?
Well, the problem that you ultimately have is, like Vegas, is that the governments all depend on getting their share of the take. They get their share of the take of any transaction, whether it's a payroll transaction, an economic transaction, a purchase transaction. If cybercurrency builds in momentum, how does government get its share of the take in order to build roads, to support government and all that? And that's ultimately a huge part of the problem. I think 10 years from now, the government is going to actually get in bed with the cybercurrency folks because it's the only way it's going to work.
You're still trying to figure out LIBOR, FX.
So there is going to be a Bitcoin lobby.
Virtual currency on there as well, right?
We are going to see a Bitcoin lobby then. All right.
You can think of Bitcoin mining as the payment processing of the future. For example, Visa processes somewhere around 4,000 transactions a second and makes 10 cents off each transaction. As a Bitcoin miner, you can participate in the transaction processing network of the future and take your share and help enable the network's democracy.
The idea that one person can send another person Bitcoin without a company in between is something that I think is really good for the world.
So Bitcoin mining is precisely running the network that verifies Bitcoin transactions. It's a competition to see who can collect the rewards first. And in order to keep Bitcoin mining democratic, it's important that people have access to high-performance Bitcoin mining systems. In the growth of Bitcoin, we are still at the super early stages. For example, if you say 1% of the global GDP, that would still allow for a growth of 1,000 or 10,000 times from where Bitcoin is today. There is a lot of room for it to get much better.
Global official currencies have now got a new addition to the family. Germany has become the first country to officially recognize virtual bitcoins as legal tender, valid for legal and tax purposes. Well, RT's host of a venture capital program, Katie Pilbeam, joins me now with more. So actually, incredible news, in fact, for Germany. So what does it actually mean? What will change for Germans using the Bitcoin now?
Right, well, the fact that it's illegal is great for the image of the Bitcoin. The very fact that people haven't got to worry about breaking a law, they can buy their goods and services very freely, and it's great for the transparency, for the trustworthy of the coin. As we know, since its introduction 4 years ago, it's not been short of controversy, that's for sure. And that's because it has had accusations of money laundering, drug smuggling, and that's because it doesn't have any association with a central bank or central government.
And maybe this is something that makes it even more appealing.
Exactly.
Now that Europe is gripped, you know, the crisis
and also currency manipulation and debt as well. That's what makes it so alluring. The people don't want that intervention from government. But as well as that, like I say, there's also the negative connotations that come with that as well, because you don't have the regulation.
Absolutely.
So that's a problem. So by making it legal, it's a step towards that.
But you know what? It might take some educating, actually, because not that many people know about it, you know, how they can get it, because it's not really easy to get it. The process of getting Bitcoin is called mining, and it's also through some, you know, mathematical sort of codes and stuff.
Incredibly
so you can't really get it. Yeah, it's really complex. It's probably limited.
In a tangible form, which is confusing in itself.
That's right. It's virtual.
You know, it is virtual. But really, for me, I see this as Germany's rubber stamp of approval. It's Germany saying, well, it's legal. And also, Germany is the so-called powerhouse of Europe. So if Germany's going to use it, they're saying it's okay, then why can't the rest of Europe follow suit?
Yeah, the others might follow suit, and it's the first EU country that's using it.
Indeed, the very first. So it's significant, to say the least. And it's been a very interesting month as well, we have to remember, because Thailand said it was illegal at the end of July. They banned it as a currency. But first week of August, we had a court in Texas saying that it was legal. And this makes the value of the coin incredibly tumultuous, very volatile.
Actually, the U.S. Is looking at it as well, and maybe with a possibility of regulating it somehow in the future. So we will see.
Looking more feasible now.
Looking
though,
more
isn't it?
feasible
Because
now.
of Germany,
Absolutely.
so.
Well, you know, given all pros and cons, what does this move mean for Bitcoin then?
I think it's most definitely a positive, because it means that there's two sides of the coin, excuse the pun.
Absolutely.
And it's not all negatives, for sure, because the Thailand moment was a bad point for the Bitcoin, but right now it's looking positive. There's definitely two thumbs up from Germany, Maureen.
So Bitcoin is looking upbeat at this point.
Indeed.
All right.
The world is in financial disarray. Currencies failing, economies in wild flux, jobs being lost. But what if you could build an entirely new economy, one specifically designed for the digital realm? Well, that is the dream behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a decentralized electronic cash system that uses peer-to-peer networking along with digital signatures and cryptographics to generate currency. Now, with traditional money, think dollars, the euro, pesos, you've got a central bank, like the Federal Reserve. They issue the currency and they print more or less cash as needed, but not with Bitcoin. Bitcoins are generated using a process called mining. Your computer is given a complex mathematical problem to solve, and the goal is a 64-digit number. If your grey box can successfully solve that algorithm, then congratulations, you are the proud owner of a new block of 50 Bitcoins. The network automatically adjusts the difficulty of mining so that 50 Bitcoins are created roughly every 10 minutes. The reason they call it mining is because there's a set number of Bitcoins that can ever be mined in the system. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be created in total. You can't just print off cash like they do in the real world. You're digging it out of the system like precious metals from some mathematical mine. Like any economy, you don't want too much too fast because then the value of your currency drops, or so slow that your economy grounds to a halt. It's designed to be a self-stabilizing economy. Whether it actually is that way though, well, that is a little bit more complicated. Welcome to the exchanges. These exchanges allow people to buy and sell Bitcoins with each other. The largest Bitcoin exchange is Mt. Gox. And it's here that you can purchase Bitcoins using local currencies. You can even store Bitcoins too. And ultimately, that is what's most powerful about Bitcoin. Not the coins itself, but the way it can change the way we look at, think about, and most importantly, spend our money.
But my point is, it's about skills now. And so that's another reallocation of trillions of dollars. And then in financial services, you know, Chris talked about it earlier, but Bitcoin and things like it is the equivalent of the red pill. Okay? We are entering a completely world of uncharted water right now.
Have you made any investments in Bitcoin?
So, I mean, I personally own Bitcoin in my hedge fund. I own Bitcoin in my fund. I own Bitcoin in my private account. It is a huge deal. It's a huge, huge, huge deal. Because what you're talking about right now is for the next 3 to 5 years, an unbelievably better store value. It is gold 2.0, right? The value of gold that hedges the world economy about $9 trillion, right? $1,300 an ounce, of which only $100 to $150 is the actual production value. So all the rest of it is imputed, where, Lena, you and I have decided that it's worth $1,300 an ounce. Well, guess what? I can do the same thing with Bitcoin, except now I could do it outside the purview of every single government. It's being used everywhere where you would think it would be used. Russia, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Venezuela, Argentina, everywhere where you have currency pressure, everywhere where you want to basically shield your assets. And then after that, it'll probably become a payment mechanism. So in all of these three industries, you're talking about trillions of dollars up for grabs. Up for grabs, right? And it's just about trying something.
Right.
And taking a few months to understand what the opportunity is and then hit the scene. And I think that the cool thing is it's easier to know how to code. It's actually useful in a way where, you know, you can probably hack something together yourself. You can find folks. And so this is the time where people should be trying really big, crazy things.
Well, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Shama.
Just as the US has the dollar, Japan has the yen, and the UK has the pound, the internet has the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital money used directly between people anywhere in the world to buy online goods and services. To get started, download the Bitcoin wallet. Like a real wallet, it stores your Bitcoins and is used to send and receive payments using unique addresses. Anytime a transaction is made between Bitcoin users, it's recorded on a publicly shared log called the blockchain. These transactions are checked and confirmed by miners. Miners are essentially people with powerful computers who, in exchange for newly created Bitcoins, use Bitcoin software to verify that transactions are correct. With thousands of miners contributing, transactions run smoothly, and the network is constantly secured. Thanks to miners and Bitcoin's large network, no coin can be reproduced or double spent. Cryptography is used to make it impossible for anyone to spend funds from another user's wallet, and can be used to encrypt a wallet so that it can't be used without a password. This type of security is also used for credit card transactions and electronic bank transfers. In fact, the embedded code has been preset so that only 21 million bitcoins will ever be in circulation. To ensure a steady rate of distribution, Bitcoin production was modeled after gold mining. Just like mining for gold grows increasingly difficult over time, so does creating new bitcoins. Right now, 25 bitcoins are generated every 10 minutes. This rate will halve every 4 years until the final bitcoins are created in 2140. One way to get bitcoins is by mining them, but since that requires specialized equipment and time, most of us buy them. Several exchanges exist online where you can buy bitcoins and cash out your bitcoins for major currencies. There are currently 50,000 bitcoin transactions per day. Over 1,000 online stores accept them as payment, and the bitcoin market has exploded from $50 million to $1.2 billion in only a year.
The digital currency Bitcoin has enjoyed a stratospheric rise. The total number of all Bitcoins in existence, currently about 11 million, has increased from about $10,000 3 years ago to around $1 billion today.
And I thought Bitcoin is just insane, but it's really taken up. People are paying attention to it.
As more people become excited about the virtual currency, investment dollars are pouring in.
Free from centralized regulation, Bitcoin has been gathering steam and pushing its way to the mainstream.
The Winklevoss twins invested $1.5 million in payment processing platform BitInstant earlier this year. Coinbase, a Bitcoin startup developed at Y Combinator, currently processes 171,000 transactions per month for nearly 250,000 users. With more than $6 million of investment capital, Coinbase, like the Bitcoin industry itself, looks poised for explosive growth.
We are now officially making feather coins. Ultimately, it's maths. It's just crunching numbers. It's solving a calculation, and basically it's trying to find a sum.
When you start interacting with a cryptocurrency, essentially it's backed against the blockchain, which is a public ledger. It's basically every single transaction that takes place on the network. Now, you know that those transactions are true because of all the hard work that the miners do on the network in order to verify those payments. So in a way, it's kind of backed against the laws of physics.
So each of these here are accepted shares. Because we're mining on a pool, every time we solve a share of a difficulty of 256, we get an accepted share.
This school is a mixed school.
And it's already been seen in Uganda, where supporters of using Bitcoin for charity hope to see 100% of the donation reaching those in need, something that other charities can't offer. The reason that Bitcoin can benefit charity is that every penny of what you donate ends up with those who need it. No middleman, no admin, no cut for anyone else.
If somebody in Somalia has access to the technology and to the hardware, and he needs a shovel for his acre, he can put up a crypto charity project that just says, this is my acre, I need to grow some food there, I need a shovel, it will cost me €2, and can put that up there.
Getting those in need access to the technology is one of the main challenges, but those behind the crypto charity say things are moving along quickly.
There you've already got payments by mobile phones, there's already people doing Bitcoin payments by mobile phones, so all of this is kind of working itself out.
Just one click in the right place on the website and your donation is there. Bitcoin advocates are determined to push charity as a use for the cryptocurrency. Its peer-to-peer format, adding a personal edge.
You can show people, this is my face, my name, my family, my village, and this is what we need. Can you please help us?
It's being portrayed as funds without borders. If Bitcoin's 21st century philanthropists are right, it could help some of those most in need.
We're here at the New Yorker Hotel for Media Bistro's Inside Bitcoins conference, where industry leaders are talking about the current state and future potential of the digital currency.
If you want to use it as a currency, you can. It's very awesome. It has a lot of cool things about it. It's basically your own private Swiss bank account. It's like an alternative to gold.
But it's also the way of sending money over the internet. And there's no middleman, there's no one involved in that.
Bitcoin is right now is
a distributed payment processing system. It's actually the world's best payment processor.
It's the first time that you've got something that's simultaneously a currency, a commodity, and a method for microtransactions without the need to have intermediaries.
If you're an entrepreneur or an investor, I would really focus on the fact that it's an IP address for money and allows people to make dollar-to-dollar transactions over the Bitcoin protocol. People often shouldn't even have to know that they're using Bitcoin. It should really just make it easier for people to send money to their friends.
Bitcoin has great, potential being a remittance tool, or a great potential doing micropayments or donations, or helping paywall systems. All these different products that incorporate Bitcoin's technology into a mainstream product.
Everyone we spoke to today feels overwhelming optimism for the potential for Bitcoin to succeed not only as a new currency, but also as a platform for future businesses.
So to talk a little bit about the fate for this new virtual currency, I was joined earlier by Erin Ade, host of Boom Bust. I started by asking her how well lawmakers understand this technology.
I'd say, those sentiments by the senator, they're kind of felt all around the hearing this afternoon. I had to run out a little early to chat with you guys. It's still going on at the moment, but they're a little bedeviled by what's going on with Bitcoin, what it is, how it's used, how can you steal it if it doesn't really exist? And these are all valid questions. It's new, and its price volatility is kind of off the charts right now. We saw it hit, I believe it was 900 yesterday, and now it's back in the high 600s. But the point is, this is really just a new currency that a lot of the senators don't understand, and today's hearing was for the sole purpose of kind of not damage control. Before there's a crisis, why not have a hearing to discuss how they can face what could happen with this currency?
Sure, that makes sense. You were just at the hearing, like you mentioned. Would you consider the very fact that these hearings are taking place a big step forward for virtual currency in itself?
I mean, absolutely. The fact that they're talking about it, they're considering, the question is still there, is this a currency or not? Is this something besides a currency? But the fact that they're taking place really shows that the federal government is taking the time and the consideration to not only discuss how to regulate it, but to accept it into beyond just what the Federal Reserve has today and those options, using something like Bitcoin, peer-to-peer, like you said, currency sharing network. I think that it's an important step for Bitcoin, and we could definitely see that yesterday and today at the hearings.
Sure. And from the discussion that you were able to see, did they agree that Bitcoin is an actual currency?
That's a great question, because right now, no. They know it's an encrypted virtual currency, and is it a currency, is it not? Yes, it's a currency in the sense that it can buy you things online from certain places. However, if I go to the store, you go to the store, and I want to buy a piece of bread from you, I can't pay you in Bitcoin. You wouldn't accept it. So there are some gray areas, but it's a currency for all extensive purposes in the sense that you can purchase things with Bitcoin. And but today, out of today's hearing, it's still gray area as to whether or not they have considered it a full-fledged currency.
Right, and lawmakers have said, that it's intriguing and they're learning about it. Was anything said about whether Bitcoin could be taxed?
That's a great question. Now, one of the things that it was Senator Warren, he said today that if we lay too much regulatory burden, we can possibly chase these exchanges overseas, which is something they don't want to do. Basically, what they want to do is keep it regulated, but not too regulated in the sense that it would deter innovation, because deterring innovation is not something that we want at all, particularly with America kind of being at the forefront of the tech innovation sector right now. We have all new, we just talked about on the show many times, Uber, Airbnb, et cetera, These are all new innovations, and if you regulate them too heavily, you're going to see them go overseas, and they brought that up today. So how they're going to tax it, that still needs to be discussed, and by tax season in this upcoming spring, what will happen, we have to wait and see. But now the fact that they're having these hearings ahead of when it's time to really start considering it shows that, you might be taxed, so if you have your Bitcoin, be sure to put potential money aside for taxes, but they don't have anything on the books yet.
Got it. And one potential obstacle to mainstream acceptance of Bitcoin Bitcoin is the sometimes wild fluctuation in its value. Take a look at this. There was a massive rally in the price of Bitcoin on Monday, with the value soaring past $900 on some exchanges. Do you believe that this rally was a sign that the government would not stand in the way of Bitcoin's development?
You know, these virtual currencies, their benefits are as diverse as their cons, and these rallies, there's so many different variables. Yes, could it have had something to do with the fact that we saw such a huge rally in the value and price of Bitcoin? Yes, it could have, but it could also be a variety of other things. So that, you know, it's hard to say exactly what tipped this off and to make it go on such a bull rally, but it didn't hurt, that's for sure. The fact that these Senate hearings are happening and that good things are coming from it in the terms of acceptance of this currency as something that the U.S. government might look into and implementing as something of its own.
Sure. Well, it will be interesting to see how this new virtual currency is going to be regulated. Host of Boom Bust, Aaron Aid, thank you.